Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about camera market future. So let's dive right into it. Now, in one word, we're going to have a very expensive future. Now, the reason for that, like actual mathematical reason, the reality is the number of new users is not growing, meaning the people who have camera, they are buying more camera. But here's the deal, how many new people are getting into this hobby? Very few. And recent things, and given the fact that almost more and more young people think photography is just a basic thing because you can do it from your camera, they are not inclined to pay a photographer much, which means the photographers do not make boatload of money, which means more and more people are like, I don't think photography is as a career choice. So the number of people who are doing photography either as a side hobby or as a something that they wanted to do, pursue it as a passion, that number is going down, like exponentially down. And this is a very long trend. Now be mindful, the original peak happened from digital camera, and then this was interchangeable lens camera. Now there was a bit of lag, but even this is going down. And overall, if you look at year over year, as in like how many interchangeable lens cameras were sold in 2015 versus 2016, 17, 20, 20, it's going down constantly. That simply means flat out it's not growing. And anything that is dealing with stock market, they have to grow. They cannot be just like, oh, we reached it. No, you have to keep growing. So fundamentally, not growing. Ecosystem is not, like the pie is getting smaller. Then the units sold, meaning how many units are selling. Remove the user count, remove the brand new equipments, like how many is still like people who are active in this. That is also shrinking year over year. This puppy is the graph of 3 years, 2020, 2021 and 2022. Somehow we sold more cameras in 2020 than we sold in 2021. That should not happen. And again, at this point in time, any peak that happens is almost literally 1 or 2%, and it's more like, it was a bit up last year to this year, and then it's gonna be over, smoothed out. Like the moment you zoom out a bit, and then like past 5-10 years and projected next 5-10 years, it's not going good. So flat out, both are the amount of new users, the amount of units sold, both are going down drastically. And this creates a scenario where each company, because again, companies are for profit equipments, meaning they have to make profit in order to justify the money they are consuming. If they don't, they will go bankrupt and shut down. So fundamentally, the easiest way to do is price creep, meaning the equipment cost will slowly start to go up. Even though let's say modern manufacturing allows you to make same product for lower cost, you will still charge more, simply because you may say like, oh, it's inflation, all that. It's like realistically, it's just that you want to increase your profit margin. Now that creates a very serious problem, which we call price creep, meaning you're not making too much profit, so you increase your price. That creates low sales, because again, more and more people who are even willing to take a risk, they'll look at the modern price and they're like, you know what, no thank you. That creates even lower sale, which leads to even lower profit. That creates even more price creep. Then it creates a vicious loop where you will end up with something like Leica or Hasselblad. Both of these two camera company at some point in time were like camera company, not just some luxury brand or something. They were like a camera equipment company, but again, both of them shrank. Now again, they are viable, they are valid, they are still, but they are former their former glory is exponentially larger than what they have right now. They're surviving, but they're not thriving. They're not like, whoa, they're like, we're still here, we're still like, so that creates a very serious vicious cycle. That's why low numbers of sales over time does mean a very serious thing. And it's not like Apple, where they sold the mobile phone and then they have services to charge from. The cameras do not work that way. And you made lenses are even more expensive. So this is not good. And world economy right now is not good. Nope, sir. There's this China thing that happened in the 2020. Then there is this thing with Putin going hululu, and all things considered, things are not good in any country, in anywhere on this like 200 country plus planet. None of us is doing very well. So fundamentally speaking, not good. So at this point in time, people have a like serious crunch on their extra spending. So all this creates a very vicious scenario where things are not going to be cheap in future. So what's happening compared to sub 3 camera companies, meaning Nikon, Canon and Sony? And the reason why I always focus on these three, in the global unit sold, they are the only 3 major players. Everyone else is like exponentially smaller. That's why I don't talk about Fuji that much. That's why I don't talk about Olympus, that again they went bankrupt. Panasonic, that which again their branch has went bankrupt, and now it's like subdivision in optical communication of Panasonic umbrella. That happens. If you're not making money, you go from like a complete sector to it's a subsector of subsector to of a subsector, and then you got sold out if somebody is willing to buy it. So that's why flat out only 3 major players are there. However, Nikon and Canon made a very good lead very early on. Canon always is like, this is like 45% is the upper maximum, and Canon almost touched 40% of market share. That was really good. That is around 2020. New sales wise, not talking about past, new sales wise. So this is really good. But here's the deal. Nikon almost poofed out of existence. They really did not do well. From 2013 they were below Sony, and and they went down after 2019. And it's kind of acceptable. Nikon cameras are like, yeah, their flagship is really good, but everything else that people can afford and buy in bulk, those are just not good enough. Flat out not good enough. It's like, dude, what the hell you are doing? Flat out not good enough. So that creates a scenario where more and more people, new units sold is just not creating a scenario. And be mindful, new units sold becomes the next user. If you are selling new units today, those people will consume your lenses tomorrow. That will create a loyal user. That will create a recurring revenue, which you want. But if you're not getting new users, you're like, oh, our old guards are still here. That's not very long-term sustainable, because at some point they will retire. So that creates a very serious area. So Nikon is in the red. What does that mean? Flat out, they are shrinking. And like company-wise, they are shrinking. They are laying off people. They are shutting down factories. They are laying off many sub-units in India. So at this point, Nikon is not good. Like flat out, not good, not healthy. And the numbers of product categories that they have cancelled is exponentially high. They actually had a competitor for GoPro. They cancelled it. So flat out, Nikon is just not in a healthy state at this point in time. Canon, even though Canon is like, the granddaddy share, they are shrinking also. They are shrinking simply because Sony randomly came out of nowhere, and it's like Sony was slowly, they went up. Now, Sony's good rate of growth simply means one thing. People, as in like third-party companies, they were far more willing to invest in Sony ecosystem than basically, Canon or Nikon, especially Nikon. Like as in Z-mount, how much love and support Z-mount will get compared to how much love and support E-mount will get. E-mount will get exponentially more, simply because every company will look into this part. It's like, how many new users are there? Not, oh, you sold millions of units in like 1990s. Nobody cares. How many units you sold this year? How many units sold previous year? Like, I want to see a trajectory, and if the trajectory is going up, that's GG. If trajectory is going down, like Canon is, not good. So flat out, in short term, Sony is going very well. And again, it does kind of make sense. I have been a lot of weddings in this year basically, and majority of the time videographers are almost all of the time they are using Sony. And that's a big deal. You may be like, oh, old guard and all that. It does not matter. If every new user is jumping into Sony because the ecosystem is far more easy to get into, far more excitement around the product, over time it will become the dominant system. So what does it mean for poor people like me? Well, poor price to performance ratio is our future. Meaning, you can even notice it. Like back in the days, you can buy a DSLR like Nikon D3100. How powerful it was for its time versus how powerful today's lowest end camera, interchangeable lens camera you can buy. You'll find that today's lower end cameras are far more crappier. Like, how the heck that happened? Again, poor price to performance ratio. Companies do not want to give you performance. They can give you, but they're like, dude, we are not selling as much unit. The whole market is shrinking. And again, even these companies are like, we are not in a confident, stable position. It's not working. So we're gonna have a very expensive future. So let's look into Canon. Now Canon, flat out, let me be very clear, the technology and performance, meaning the autofocus algorithm, the auto exposure algorithm, all of those puppies, they're good, like really good. You can trust this puppy. Performance, really good, meaning not only it can lock on, it can give you absolute confidence. Like if you're doing a burst mode, 99% of the shot would be useful. So that is a really good thing, meaning if you buy into this equipment, you're like, we got this. That's good. Now, they're from an overall standpoint of view, they have like the bit too up on their own ass. It's like they kind of like, it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like at some point you were like, dude, what are you doing? So they really do things that will piss you off. For example, in their DSLR lineups, they literally removed center frame from the flash. Why? Because if they remove it, the only Canon flash will be able to work on that. No third party will work on that. It's like, why? It's like, dude, again, Canon was like, no, I don't want to support anyone else. It's like, what the hell? If somebody is buying the bare minimum of a camera, that fundamentally means they do not have boatload of money. You want the customer, or do you want the, just a bit more sale from Canon flash? And again, nobody bought it. So this is one of those things. It's like sometimes they kind of get up to their own ass. So again, that 30-minute recording limit was removed long ago. Canon still did not remove it, and at this point in time, many new cameras still don't have that 30-minute requirement. Only high ends they have removed. It's like, dude, why? They're like, nobody will buy C series cameras. Are you actually telling me the whole reason the C series cameras exist is because more than 30-minute recording limit? That's it. That's all you have. So fundamentally speaking, it's like sometimes the way they behave is like, no, we will not. Like, it's like, why the heck you do not have clean HDMI output? It's easier to do clean HDMI output because it requires a GUI layer, graphical user interface layer, to be turned off. Turn off it. It's easier to turn things off. It's easier. But they're like, no, we'll not give you clean HDMI output. It's like, why? No, we're gonna give you micro HDMI. It's like my Canon has mini HDMI. Not great, not terrible. But they decided in the future cameras we're gonna give you micro HDMI, so it breaks magically. It's like, why? So there is a serious issue with them. It's like they are like up their own, and the ecosystem is messy. Like this is just a list of batteries. They have way too many batteries. Not one battery, not two batteries. Is like there is BP511, there is BP511A, there is LPE6, there is LP12, LPE17, LPE8, LPE10, LPE17, and God knows, these are just a few. Like I had this issue because this camera, the charger broke, but I did not understand the charger broke. So I thought the battery may be defective because again the light was blinking. So I was like, okay, I went into the Canon authorized shop. I was like, bro, you are authorized. Can you sell me a legit battery? They're like, dude, this battery does not sell that much. We don't have stock of it. Canon authorized shop. And again, I do not live in the middle of nowhere. I do live in a place where enough Canon people are there that there should be battery. But again, because Canon created so many of it, nobody can stock all of them. And I don't blame the shopkeeper for that. It's like, bro, there should be like 2 or 3, 5 at maximum. You should not have like every model has its own battery. It's like, what? And the lens literally has like, you have EF, you have EFS, then you have R, and then you have RF, R mounts, APS-C system, then you have M mount. It's like, why? Too many systems. There are too many ecosystems, and it does matter, especially if you are working in a crew environment. Meaning, if you have a lot of people working collectively, you could literally have a scenario where like the photographer's battery is dissimilar to a videographer's battery, simply because even though both are using Canon, even though both of them using Canon mirrorless system, they're like, no, we'll all have different batteries. And flat out, recently they made this announcement that they are blocking third-party lenses. Now again, they are not flat out coming and it's like RF lenses will not be made in third-party any longer. Now can Canon legally do that? Yes, as long as the person, basically any third-party company, puts electronics into their lens, meaning they have to communicate with Canon's pin, that violates the patent. So again, there is no patent on this going and rotating thing. That's not a patentable thing, but electronic signaling is patented. So if any other company wants to make third-party lens, they can make manual lenses without any issue. That will work with cinema system, so that's not an issue. But the moment you put electronics, autofocus, yeah, you're violating it. And that's why RF lenses are not coming in third party, and that's a very bad thing. Flat out no. That's just no. That's no. Because you may be like, Canon gets do whatever. Yeah, you can do it. You just gonna fade away exactly like Leica did. You can do whatever the heck you want. Good luck. Just you're gonna fade away, because most people can't afford these RF lenses. They can afford the body, but you buy the body, you buy the third-party lens, then you grow into profit, then you buy first-party lenses. You do not start with first-party lens, first-party body, and awesome. And be mindful, what if your lenses are garbage? For example, this puppy, 70 to 200. Again, it's not a bad lens, but it's not the most amazing lens that Canon can make. Why? Because somehow somebody figured out, it's like, hey, rather than making the best lens possible for RF mount, because this is the first lens, let's make it portable. It's like, why? Their logic was like, if you want quality, you can buy a DSLR lens, put it on an adapter. I'm like, your first thing should never be compromised. Your first thing should always be the most kick-ass performance possible. But again, because there's no third-party option, so you have to buy EF adapter, then put other lenses. No, and compared to the Sony had the same issue. Their 70 to 200 was also garbage. F2.8, that was garbage. But here's the deal: they had Sigma, they had Tamron, both of them were making lenses. And by the time Sony made the Mark II variant, you had 3 options where you could choose a very low cost budget option. You can buy a medium with medium performance, and you can buy badass performance and lightweight lens. So you had 3 options. Here you have only 1 option. All other options requires you to use adapter, and good luck with the performance. And again, even like again, drive-by-wire does do much better compared to the Nikon system, but still has some limitations, like serious limitation. And again, why would you blockade third-party lenses? It's like a really dumb thing. It's almost like removing the center pin from flash. It's like, no, we do only want Canon to sell. That simply means many starter people don't even look into Canon system. Many times, again, I was also stuck into that system where it's like you only pay attention to the price of the body. You do not pay attention to the price of the lenses. The moment you look at the price of the lenses, you will be shocked. And be mindful, you think bodies are expensive? These puppies are like, bro, bitch please. So Flat out blocking third-party lenses, flat out means only one thing: if they are no longer cost-effective. Meaning anybody, unless you have GG amounts of money, unless you are already settled, unless you already have everything taken care of, you cannot buy into this system. It will hurt you financially. And you are like, okay, what if I use adapter and all that? Yeah, you can use that, but again, you will find inferior performance compared to the Canon's own lenses. You will find inferior performance. Again, there is a reason if think of it this way, if adapters were just as good as a native system, why the heck this even exists? There will be like, dude, just put that adapter. All the lenses will come with that adapter. Redesigning the system with a reduced flange distance does give you some advantages. It's like, if you're not using that advantage, what's the point? So it's really, really bad. Like, flat out. For that reason, I'm like, no, just say no to Canon. And this battery mess that I had to deal with. So what about Sony? Well, again, Sony also has good tech and performance, but be mindful in their mirrorless lineup. They really have bit behind video tech, which I think is by design. Because here's the deal: you may hear about like Canon has a C lineups. C lineups are very popular in mid-range. The moment you go into professional grade cinema, Sonys are far more popular. Even I did not know this. Like Star Wars are shot in Sony. Top Gun Maverick is shot in Sony, and many James Bond are shot in Sony's. Many movies, like pro-graded movies, are shot in Sony. So Sony is like really up there. Like, you will rarely see Canon there. You will see Red. You will see like RE. You will see Sony. You will rarely see Canon there. So Canon is like there, but not that big. Like in broadcast, again, broadcast is like Sony's bread and butter. Broadcast is like, bro, I got this. So Sony is really good and really capable of it. But for some reason, they are not adding that oomph into their low-end systems. Again, but it does mean a scenario where if you can buy Canon and you can get raw onboard recording, be mindful. Do not buy a system that does not have heat sink, because Canon will overheat if you try to do raw recording. You have to buy the one that has basically R5C camera that has like, cooling fan. Then you can do raw recording without overheating. But other than that, do not think like, oh, I'm gonna have Canon, I'm gonna do raw recording. It's like, dude, this can overheat very quickly. So again, Sony can do that. They're not doing it. And I think I'm pretty sure, because given the cinema line's legacy and success, I'm like pretty sure that they can do it. They're choosing not to do it. So it does mean at this point in time, flat out, many times you will find that, Sony is like a bit lacking in video. They'll have, this is the sensor. Awesome. Hey, this is the crop. Okay, not bad, not bad. This is the actual crop. It's like, what the hell? No, this is the crop. It's like, what? So that does create a scenario where video horsepower, if you want the raw, absolute most beast video performance, Sony is not your guy. But is it bad? Not really, because here's the deal: 8-bit bad, 10-bit more than good enough. Because here's the deal: very few people actually have panels that are 10-bit. So, and difference between 8-bit to 10-bit is enormous. 10-bit to anything above is very, very small. Like, yeah, you can do that, but be mindful. Movies have been mastered in digital in 10-bit. So you can achieve a lot with 10-bit, especially if you're complaining at 10-bit. It's like, you may be pushing it. Yeah, it would be nice to have 12-bit or 16-bit, but at 10-bit it's like, bro, we got it, more than good enough. So that's why it's selling. It's like 10-bit is like, more than good enough, where it can bitch slap almost all mobile phones, and you can truly utilize the dynamic range. Now, it does have clean ecosystem. Now that means the battery and lenses are super amazing. Battery wise, they really did this one thing amazing. It was like full frame, one battery, go. Z100, that's it, done. And this is a third-party battery manufacturer that they made it, which has USB-C direct charging, which people are begging them to just put the USB-C on the bottom, so you can literally remove the battery cover and directly use it as system. Again, for many scenarios that will like, shut up and take my money, but that's the amazing aspect of it. And what does it mean from a crew point of view? That means if you are using A7S3 for video recording, if you are using A7 Mark for photography, you literally can swap batteries. All the batteries can be charged into the same cradle. All the batteries can be used interchangeably without any issue. That's shut up and take my money. Even like, that does not matter. That it does matter. Lenses, again, Sony did have the wisdom to know that flat out day one they will not have any lenses. So even though they launched with some lenses, they were garbage. Like 70-200 f2.8 was super heavy, not good performing. Like flat out, it was like not good performing. And that's why third-party lenses are also like a check on these first-party manufacturer, where they're like, okay, we can't stupidly charge overprice our system because we just have like G Master. It's like, bro, it's garbage. You can call it G Master, but it's garbage. So that's why we do need, and Sony did like E-mount, go YOLO on it, meaning you can do autofocus, electronic communication, all that jazz. They are not sharing the image stabilization algorithm, so lens stabilization, if they want to do, they have to figure out their own algorithm. Not too difficult, but that's why you will see, unless you are talking telephoto third-party lenses, you will not see image stabilization. You will see everything else, but you will not see that image stabilization. E-mount is open, but not open source open. It's not Micro Four Third. So they do support full third-party lenses, and you can get really amazing options. And that means it's a really far more welcoming system for first-time starters. But they just make too many models. It's like, and they have the same problem with Canon kind of scenario. It's like, if we block this feature in this one, then only we can sell this one. It's like, you should never be in that position. Like, you should not be in that position, flat out, no. It's like A7S3 can do full 4K 60 FPS. So we'll crop 4K 60 in this. It's like, you will like, can't processor, maybe processor limited. No, processor is exactly the same. That processor, exact same thing is that being used in freaking A1. So you're telling this puppy can do 8K while reading a 4K, basically a 50 megapixel sensor, and somehow this puppy cannot do that 4K 60 full frame. No, that was a like intentionally done system. It was like, and like for example, why A7S3 cannot do like, you know, electronic shutter like to 50-60 FPS. It can do 120 FPS in video. And again, the sensor, we know sensor can sensor is capable of reading fast enough, otherwise it will not do 120 FPS, and the processor is more than capable enough, otherwise it will not be used in A1. So that's a artificial limit that happens when you make too many models, where each model ends up with artificial limits. It's like, dude, it's a 12 megapixel system. If you had good lens with it, good autofocus with it, and if you really unlocked it, like go YOLO, let's say 60 FPS burst, it would be amazing sports system. You're like, 12 megapixel is not enough. Be mindful, only a few years ago that was the best you can have bought. So we kind of are spoiled at this point. Everybody wants megapixel. You can do amazing things, and be mindful, photography is about the moment in time, not the megapixel. So they do make too many models, and that creates a loop where you have to keep track of them. And I'm not even going to the APS-C lineup. But Sony being Sony, they have a bit anal history with things, especially with memory formats. And like everybody's like, what if we use micro disc? Like, you know, mini disc, 8 centimeter disc. Sony's like, what if we make universal media disc? It's like, why? It's like, if you are old enough as I am, you must have used Sony Ericsson phone once in a while, someone's third-party hands or your own hand. I have used it. They had Magic Gate. It's like, why? Like secure digital, as in SD cards that were already created. It was a thing. It was working. Sony was like, no, let's be anal about it. Let's do hulululu into that. It's like, why did you create Magic Gate? Like, be mindful, if you have old Sony full frame cameras, you will still see the stamp of Magic Gate in the shutter door. What happened to that? It only created e-waste. Same is happening here. It's like, why the heck you created CFast Type A? Be mindful, the protocol is not made by them. Protocol is there A, B, and C. And because this is basically NVMe SSD, so this is basically PCI lane A, there is PCI lane, 2 PCI lane, and there are 4 PCI lane. Now, 2 PCI lane is XQD. It's literally, the physical format is XQD. Sony made that puppy. Everybody else is using that. And Sony is like, what if we don't use our own creation in our own equipment? What if we create BS? Type A. It's like, why? Like, you cannot even buy very large capacity cards. It's like, because no other body was manufacturing it and nobody else is using it. And when CFast Type B, which is XQD physical format, that is used being by Canon, Nikon, Panasonic, Fuji, and even Sony's Pro and Cinema lineup. Everybody is using that, and Sony is deciding, let's create new garbage. It's exactly like what they did with Magic Kit in Sony Ericsson days. It's like, why are you creating loose motion when you do not need to create loose motion? It's like, is there something innate about Sony? It's like, we have to shit. Like, we have to create garbage. It's like, you created a better format and you are not using it, and you are forcing your customer to, basically somebody actually figured out that this is just NVMe and protocol is NVMe electrically compatible. You can literally put a NVMe SSD, computer SSD into this. They have figured it. I have linked the video down below. You can do that. Again, firmware may not play ball with it, but it can be done. It has been done, and there are other companies that are selling you whole like package where you can just put a grip into it that will attach a giant SSD, so you can do video recording much more effectively. It's like, why? So what can we do? Well, you have to understand this whole point. All of these companies, all over, be it Nikon, be it Canon, be it Sony, be it whatever, none of them are actually improving. And what I mean by improvement, I'm not talking about spec sheet, ISO performance, or dynamic range. I'm talking about usability. For example, all of these camera has bulb mode. Bulb mode is back in the old days, you actually had to pull a string in film camera, so that string had to be hold a torch, so that bulb mode and all that jazz. They do not have digital function on that, like meaning you cannot just click bulb mode and be like, okay, I want to set it for 2 minutes 30 seconds. You cannot just click the bulb mode and it's like, okay, I want to set it for 1 hour 30 minutes. It's like, why the heck it's not a function? You cannot just set your naming convention, be like, okay, this is exact date, exact time, exact my name prefix, and that's it. Or maybe it's like it could have GPS where it is using GPS time coordinate. Only one camera does that, one Nikon. Whereas like, we have GPS. What if we use the GPS, which is the world's best timing services, to actually encode universal time code data into your files? But it's like, what if we don't do that? What if we remove GPS system and people like, why we have to pair with mobile for geotagging? It's like, dude, because they do not figure out there are other uses of GPS also. So all those things matter a lot. Now you may be like, you can't do trim. Let that sink in. Right now there are cameras that you can record video in, but you cannot do trimming. I'm not talking about like editing and all that. Trimming, you can't just trim it. But here's the deal. We used to do that in handycam days. Back in the handycam era, we can figure out how to do that. We can't do that today. Like, why? It's just like, no, we can't. It's like Sony, literally you can't do video playback stropping. Why? No, you can't. It's like, why? No. What the hell? It's like you can't do raw processing, and I do not mean like full Lightroom processing, but like basic things like ISO moving, basically changing expose, basic things. No, you can't. Why not? No, you can't. You can't even transfer the raw file from the goddamn mobile phone to your mobile editing suite, simply because all the camera companies are like, especially all these three, it's like, no, we'll not let you transfer the raw file. It's like, why? No, we'll not let you transfer it. Like, why? No. That's a super feature reserved for super cameras. Or you have to do file transfer protocol to make into active. It's like, why? It should be a basic thing. Do you want to transfer JPEG? Awesome. Do you want to transfer RAW? Awesome. How do you sort RAW in your mobile phone? That's your problem. But company should allow it. It's like companies like, no, what if we F the customer? That's the problem. Like flat out, all these camera companies are doing a slight spec bump and little bit of cripple hammering so it does not become too good. And then like, it's like, why the camera company is dying? It's like, because you are creating garbage and selling it. And yes, people like me will go through menus, will try to figure everything out. Yeah, there are very few of us. And not to mention, even I will not recommend any new user to get into it. It's like, dude, you'll pull your hair out. It's just bad. It's like tiny things. I can create a very long list of tiny things that you're like, it's a tiny thing. Here's the deal. If hundreds of tiny things happen, that gets a very, like, have you heard of saying, like, the straw that broke the final camel's back? That kind of situation happens. Sony is a better short-term bet at this point in time for next 5 to 10 years, but again, even Sony has some issues. I'm not gonna say anybody's perfect, both of them are garbage, but it's like Sony is a better garbage. So we can't really do much about it. That's the sad part about it. We can't really do, oh, vote with your wallet. Is like, oh, there is no alternative. You can't vote someone, like voting with your wallet simply means you vote someone who is doing right thing. And so that's why Sony is successful. Sony did do many things right. For example, they were the first to remove 30-minute recording. The moment European Union passed the law, Sony's like, yeet. Even the APS-C, cheapest APS-C, A6100, no recording limit. So that was awesome. Like Sony did do amazing things, and that's why their trajectory is going upwards. But again, if Sony is not giving you like proper playback control, who are you gonna buy? Canon? And Canon is removed third-party lens support that flat out over time will have very big impacts. Not at day 1, but day 500, it will have impact. So flat out, I would urge all of you to move your workflow to mobile as quickly as possible. Be it tablet, be it iPhone, be it Android, whatever. Move them to mobile phones. Figure out how to make these things work, because more and more people are jumping into online world as quickly as possible. So you have to jump into these things as quickly as possible. This will allow you to become more efficient with your workflow. So raw processing, B-roll, editing, all that, sort that puppy out. And pay attention to AI services. This is like an AI service where they're like, you can dump the raw file and it's gonna make it into a desirable thing. And results are surprisingly good. And the more and more the services are used, the better it becomes. So fundamentally, these are the things you can do. Jump into mobile industry as quickly as possible. Jump into AI world as quickly as possible. Again, be aware of it. So you will not be like blindsided randomly, like this new photographer came in and is like, dude, why the heck his photos are like, he's pumping out photos so quickly? Yeah, you may be using AI service that you may be completely unaware of. So look into these two ecosystems. Again, camera industry is dying, and I'm not surprised, because again, if they keep selling garbage, at some point new users will be like, dude, this is garbage, I don't need your garbage. So this was my presentation on basically what's going to happen in cameras with future. Not a very uplifting video, but again, the truth. So hopefully, if you have liked the video, click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment, because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.